can call me Gaizka. And today, me and my friend Rijal Abdillah Tsani, Isyarah Khaeraini, Nur Addiena Kamila, and Nurul Fadilah will talk about students' difficulties in speaking. So let's get started. Do you guys know what speaking is? What comes to your mind if I mention the word speaking? Making sound from the mouth? Speaking in front of the crowd? Public speaking? Or giving a speech? Yep, your answers are all correct. Let me explain more deeply what is speaking. So, basically, speaking is the delivery of language through the mouth. To speak, we create sounds using many parts of our body, including the lung, vocal tract, vocal cord, tongue, teeth, and lips. Speaking is to produce sounds or audible sequences of individual sounds of a language, especially through phonation, amplification, and resonance, and through any of a variety of articulatory processes. Speaking is probably the language skill that most language learners wish to perfect as soon as possible. It used to be the only language skill that was difficult to practice online. But this is no longer the case. Now, English learners can practice speaking online using voice or video chat and services like Zoom, Skype, Google Meet, or video call, and many more. They can also record and upload their voice for other people to listen to. This vocalized form of language usually requires at least one listener. When two or more people speak or talk to each other, the conversation is called dialogue. Speech can flow naturally from one person to another in the form of dialogue. It can also be planned and rehearsed, as in the delivery of a speech or presentation. Of course, some people talk to themselves. In fact, some English learners practice speaking standing alone in front of a mirror. Speaking involves not only communication, but also paralinguistic elements of speech. Speech such as pitch, stress, and intonation. In addition, non-linguistic elements such as gestures and body language or postures or facial expression and so on may accompany speech to convey message directly. Brinkart explains that language learners will need to have three areas of knowledge involved within speaking. Namely, first, mechanic of language elements such as pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, and many more, which emphasize on use of right words in the right order with the correct pronunciation. And number two, the function of language that deals with speaking. That deals with speaking performance in the form of transaction and interaction. For example, knowing how to change information and giving the clarity of essential message. And the last but not least is 3. The social cultural norms, such as turn taking, rate of speech, length of pauses between speakers, relative roles of participants, understanding how to take into account who is speaking to whom, in what circumstances, about what, and for what reason.
According to Al-Wasilah, students' English language abilities, notably those of university students, are still unsatisfactory. Few students can speak in English and respond to their lecturers' inquiries at the university level. The majority of people prefer to remain silent in the E-level class. It is because most students still have difficulties in expressing their ideas using English as a foreign language. The students who remain silent still appear in the class even though the classroom participants takes charge of grading the students. They stop talking because they face psychological obstacles or cannot find the suitable words and expressions. In other words, there must be some factors affecting their habit of laying back to their first language as they are outside the classroom, including their motivation in speaking English. Motivation takes the position as the most influencing factors affecting the learners to speak, supported by other 9 factors. There are several things that prevent students from speaking or expressing their opinions in a class or forum. One of them is the lack of confidence in a student's cognitive knowledge they have. According to Humaira, these factors mostly deals with the knowledge of the students in mastering speaking, such as foreign language. Cognitive factors has influenced the students' speaking skills as they did not possess much knowledge related to grammar or language structure, ways to pronounce certain words, and also knowledge of words in English. All of the problems faced by the students start to inhibit them in learning to speak English as foreign language. The students expressed that they still had lack of knowledge related to vocabulary, and it made them difficult to say something in English. EFL students are highly likely to face problems in generating ideas if they are required to talk about unfamiliar topic. According to Tuan and May, along with Kasbi and Sirvan, identified lack of topical knowledge as the cause of high speaking anxiety that made students speak very little or not at all, as they could not think of anything to say and become unwilling to participate in speaking classroom. Furthermore, the speaking topics should correspond to the cognitive level of the students. Otherwise, it could hamper the students' ability to speak well. They even added that they did not know the meaning of words that the student used in their dialogue. The students also face problems in terms of pronunciations or ways to say words in English. The last source of anxiety related to cognitive factors goes to the demands and stresses of learning foreign language. Learning to speak a foreign language involves complex mental processing. In order to communicate well, EFL learners must acquire knowledge and competence in certain language components, namely grammar, vocabulary, comprehension, fluency, and pronunciations. Students should know what they want to say. Moreover, they must be able to pronounce the words clearly. They must know much relevant vocabulary and must be able to put in a correct order. One student, especially those who lack self-confidence and low self-esteem, encounter linguistic difficulties. They tend to end up becoming anxious. As Sedegi and Melowa pointed out, less confident learners usually underestimate their linguistic knowledge, and they are not sure of their own capabilities when they speaking. Some linguistics underline lack of rich vocabulary and knowledge of grammar and collocations, particularly in the arrangement of words in a correct order. Are linguistic factors that can ruin confidence and cause the emergence of anxiety. This happens because the students are too concerned with the quality of their appearance and become worried about the consequence of failing in the course.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Addiena Kamila and I'm from 3B class. So, I would like to explain what the difficulties of speaking in students. Before we start, I will explain a little bit about speaking. According to Tsani, speaking is the intended skill to express message through oral language. In addition, Rijal and Wina said that speaking is a skill involved in producing fluent and appropriate speech need to be understood. According to Gronet AG, speaking is one of the skills that have to be mastered by students in learning English. Hornby defined that speaking is the skill that the students will be judged upon most in real-life situations. It means that speaking is a medium to express ideas, opinion, and feelings. Productive skills are the ability to deliver message or meaning well in order that listener can give response of it. In productive skill, people can thinking what they should produce to make the listener understand about what they say. This case explains us that the student has to produce a language and use it fluently and appropriately considering grammar. Speaking may also used to describe something such as describe people's behavior and make polite requests. Times thought that speaking is content and context. It means that as the content, speaking includes some rules such as grammar, pronunciation, tenses, grammar. As the context, speaking is a way to understand the meaning based on the statement and the intonation that speaker says. Furthermore, Harmer said that speaking is the ability to speak fluently, presuppose not only knowledge of language features, but also the ability to process information and language on the spot. There were 3 difficulties related to linguistic problems. They were lack of vocabulary, lack of grammar, lack of grammar knowledge, and poor pronunciation. While the 9 difficulties deal with pronunciation problem were not being brave to speak, not being confident to speak, being afraid of speak, being afraid of making errors, being afraid of being mocked by their friends, being nervous to speak, not used to talking in class, difficult to express word or sentence, and confused how to use appropriate words. The next one is kind of causes of difficulty in speaking. From the causes of the difficulty that were faced by the student in speaking. The writer found, I found that one course had some difficulties. It was given in detail the difficulties of each course. The difficulties not being confident to speak and difficult to express word or sentence. This course came from one course, lack of vocabulary. From the number of courses of difficulty above, we can conclude that most students stated that being afraid of making errors was their main problem. Furthermore, according to Tsani, the difficulties faced or felt by the student in speaking can be divided into kind of problems, namely linguistic problems and non-linguistic problems. And we should have a stage called survival or equipped by survival and with oral communication or FEOC, which means functionally accept communication without consideration of accuracy. In other words, as long as students can get their ideas across, they have completed the communicative process and have survived. In other words, so long as students can get their ideas across, they have completed the.
So far, we can conclude that there are two kinds of difficulties that are often encountered by the language learners in speaking, namely linguistic and non-linguistic matters. Brown in 2001 points out that clustering, reduced forms, performance variables, and colloquial language are the factors that make speaking difficult. These difficulties related to linguistic problems. Clustering fluent speech is phrasal, not word by word. Learners can organize their output both cognitively and physically through such clustering. Reduced forms, contractions, elisions, reduced vowels, etc. all form special problems in teaching spoken English. Students who do not learn the colloquial contractions can sometimes develop a stilted bookish quality of speaking that in turn stigmatizes them. Performance variables. One of the advantages of spoken language is that the process of thinking as you speak allows you to manifest a certain number of performance hesitations, pauses, backtracking, and corrections. Speaking skill in second or foreign language is a challenge for the learners because the speech of foreign language, such as English, require more than knowing grammar, but also the use of English in a real context. Speaking is deciding appropriate words and sentences according to the proper social setting, audience, situation, and subject matter. Being fluent speaker requires many knowledge towards the language learned itself and its usage in the real communication. Speaking problems are some problems that make someone lacks of speaking ability. Language problems actually serve as one of the important reasons behind poor academic performance. These problems may become the obstacles for the students to enhance and improve their speaking ability. The reasons why the students are having problems in their speaking are they are poor in grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. Vocabulary is an individual word or a set of words which have specific meaning. Vocabulary is the knowledge of meanings of words. The words come in at least two forms, oral and print. Oral vocabulary is the set of words for which we know the meanings when we speak or read orally, while print vocabulary consists of those words for which the meaning is known when we write or read silently. The problems of vocabularies occur when someone is lack of vocabulary needed to talk and does not know how to combine the vocabularies into a good sentence. A lot of students who learn English as a foreign language have difficulties to use words and expression to speak. But in the real communications, nobody paid much attention to the correct grammar expression, but emphasized the content and how to reply. Students are clearly know what they are going to say in the source language, but when they have to switch the language itself into the target language, such as English, they often get confused to combine and use the proper vocabularies needed. Next is grammar. Grammar is a study in which sentences are structured and formatted, so that it may be considered a bit boring to study correct grammar, since it really is worth the time and effort. If learners do not know the rules of grammar, they will never be able to communicate using English effectively. Grammar competence is an umbrella concept that includes increasing expertise in grammar, morphology, syntax, vocabulary, and mechanics. In regards with speaking, the term mechanics refers to basic sounds of letters and syllables, pronunciation of words, intonation, and stress. In order to convey meaning, English foreign language learner must have the knowledge of words and sentence. They must understand how words segmented into various sounds and how sentences stressed in particular ways.
Next is, these are ways to solve the problem in speaking. It is normal for a non-native speaker of English to commit mistakes while learning English because English is not their mother tongue. Even the uneducated or less educated native speakers do mistakes while speaking English. One should take courage to speak English without caring for mistakes every time. They may ask the listener to rectify them as and when needed. A student should always have two dictionaries, one from mother tongue to English and other from English to mother tongue. Searching words in these dictionaries inspires one to speak English. Reading of English books, especially one meant for a lower class, helps to learn the English syntax. The arrangement of subject, predicate, and object in every language is quite different. One needs to know it clearly, and also read many English books will help you to enrich many vocabulary from the words that you know until that might be this first time that you ever saw. Beginners don't have confidence in themselves, especially when it comes to speaking English. This self-confidence arises because of the fear of shame of making a mistake when expressing a sentence. Everyone also starts learning from scratch and also makes mistakes, and you are no exception. Confidence can only be obtained from yourself. The solution is to study in groups and often meet strangers. The level of self-confidence will increase if you get used to it. So, to get used to it, you have to study with a lot of people. A great choice if you're into an English learning community and are open to it. The next is limit time to study. This problem is often experienced by those of you who are busy working, so the time to study is limited. After work, you are tired and want to rest, but that is not an obstacle to be able to keep studying. There are many ways for those of you who have limited time, because learning English doesn't have always doesn't always have to be in class and several hours. An effective way of learning is to spend a little time but often. Currently, there are also many applications that can be used to study anywhere. Whenever you have free time, where it in at lunch, in the morning after wake up, or before going to bed. Just 15 minutes of reading or memorizing vocabulary using an electronic dictionary is enough to increase knowledge. Next is uh, never memorize vocabulary. The basic lesson that must be learned is vocabulary.
The more vocabulary, the easier will be in the future to assemble sentence and conversation. But it is not easy to memorize foreign words that must be translated into the mother tongue. If you don't memorize it, then the method you're currently doing is wrong. To be able to memorize, there are several ways to choose. First, make sticky notes on all objects in the room. Write down the names of objects so that they are easy to remember. Both memorize one by one with a target to be achieved per week using an electronic dictionary. Third, you can also take a basic English course to memorize it. Next is difficulty in pronunciation. Saying a foreign language will be difficult on the tongue. You may already memorize it in your head, but when it is difficult to pronounce it, you can learn this pronunciation problem when you memorizing vocabulary. Not only memorize but also have to say it. In the electronic dictionary, you can listen to sound from native speakers. After listening, try to say it by yourself, but while being recorded, listen to the pronunciation you do, then repeat until it is similar. Learning improvement that can be done is by having conversation with friends or native speakers. Ask their opinion about the pronunciation you have done. Next is afraid to learn grammar.